Welcome to the Meltdown, the show where we cheese and tease, melting away barriers one bite at a time. I'm your host, Soya the Cow, and today I have the wonderful pleasure to have Rafaela Raab with me. Welcome.
Hi.
Rafaela is a very well-known activist for veganism and animal rights in the German-speaking countries and beyond. With your, as a name, the militant vegan, diemilitanteveganerin, you have gathered a huge following on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and your activism is unapologetic, it's direct, it's oftentimes controversial, and you have appeared in TV shows, there's documentaries about you, different social platforms, and always you go back to the streets. Your slogan is claiming veganism as a moral imperative of our time. Not being vegan is not okay. There we have it. And today you're here as almost like my little cow sister. Could we say that?
I like that because you inspired my activism so much, and I think we have in common that we're both unapologetic and abolitionist vegans who try to bring in creativity into the vegan movement. And I'm so glad to be here, and I'm glad if you call me your vegan sister, I feel honored.
My little cow sister, like my calf.
Ooh.
Maybe.
So I can drink on your teats?
We'll talk about that later.
Oh, wow.
It starts really well. So I want to know first, I mean, this show is called The Meltdown. What melts your heart?
Well, in a positive way, every time young children come up to me and they tell me, Rafaela, your activism has inspired me to think about others, to think about the animals, to go vegan. And I think it's so mean how the non-vegans, how these trolls treat you. And they have this huge amount of empathy. They come up to me and they say, the others are so mean to you, and they scream steak, or I'm gonna go to KFC now. It's cruel, it's barbaric. I don't wanna be like them. I feel ashamed for them. And I just want to tell you, I thank you for your activism. And especially when they then tell me, my friends and my family, they don't support me, but I made my own mind up and the animals don't deserve that. That's why we need to be vegan for them. And they, with their own little voice as children, they have such a huge voice, and I'm inspired by them. It's a reciprocity. Yeah.
Who do you think of when you say children? How old are they that I can imagine?
The youngest child that came up to me in a video that actually also went viral, I guess they were like, it was a boy, 9 years old or younger even. And he was like, Tante Millie, please, can I take a picture with you? I always watch your videos. Like Aunt Militant Vegan in English. My family is watching your videos now too. And they said, you're right. And we're making changes. That was adorable.
That's amazing. Especially, I mean, when you think of this young generation, we do grow up in a society that teaches us eating these animals is normal, eating other animals is crazy. And unlearning that is a huge process that we all go through.
Definitely.
I mean, very rarely somebody like says, I was born vegan, grew up vegan, lived vegan. How was your development from like first probably a meat and cheese eater to becoming a vegan consumer, but then also switching to become an outspoken activist for the animals?
People actually believe, since I'm so radical with my wording, that I grew up vegan in a vegan household, but it's not the truth. I grew up like everybody else, probably who's listening, in a non-vegan household, in the same doctrine that vegans are weak and weird and that animals are here for us. But then I realized when I became like more aware of what I was putting into my body and growing in the teenagerhood of thinking about your own identity and also where your place is in the world, that it is our responsibility to treat others as we want to be treated. And it was really a development when I first came in touch with plant-based food and like being plant-based when I was 16, 17. I initially did it to be like skinny and sexy. As a young woman, I identified myself with that a lot. I saw that as a success when people commented on my health or on my slim figure, which also had downsides, of course. But eventually I realized that veganism in itself, it's not a dietary reason. It's not something for health. It's not for the environment. Veganism is a stance against social injustice and animal exploitation. And that really came to me in my mind when somebody told me I cannot compare the animal industries with human suffering, with, for example, rape, with torture of humans, with slavery, or even the Holocaust. And I know that word and these comparisons are sometimes very emotionally charged, But through them telling me I should not compare it with humans because they're just animals, I realized that this kind of human supremacist stance is like racist mentality. They're just blacks, they're just women, they're just gays.
I mean, we do use, like always, like animals to also put humans out of the circle that we consider. It's the same mechanics.
You pig, you dumb cow. We put them down. They're just animals. And that is the first form of discrimination we learn.
I would like to go back to the terms that you use a bit later. So you become vegan, you have this moment, okay, I want to speak out. How did you get to the form of activism you do? Because it's quite unique in a sense. I think most vegan activists, they have a
cooking channel, lifestyle,
maybe cooking channel.
Yeah,
but like you're very direct. I think when you have conversations with people in these videos that oftentimes do get viral, and I really recommend everybody to have a look. You're not shying away from the discomfort, and that's something I have to say I admire. But it's also sometimes making me actually kind of uncomfortable.
Yes.
But how did you find the courage, or where does this boldness come from?
It also makes me uncomfortable to step into that zone. Once you ask people to do more than just think about their behavior or reduce, and you actually say that everything under veganism is cruelty and exploitation, you also make yourself the boo man in the situation. You're the messenger, and they attack you because they feel that you are their living, breathing, guilty conscience, and you're their mirror of their cruel actions. They are never told this truth. I think it comes to me quite naturally because I believe I always loved language. I admire beautifully chosen, eloquent words, and I've watched speeches of different fields, be it marketing, be it any form of stage presentation, PowerPoint karaoke. Do you know the concept?
Yes.
For people who don't know, it's like having to do a spontaneous presentation with just words and pictures. And I was at these events and Poetry Slam. I thought it was amazing. It captured me, and I believed that words are my weapon as an activist. So bringing someone the direct truth is a great form of showing them respect, because you ask them to change, and giving someone a truth, you know that they can change themselves for the better. So for you,
the honesty, the radical honesty is also a way of showing respect.
It is, because a real friend, a real person who wants the best for you and your life and your moral integrity would tell you the truth. They would like do an intervention. If you treat someone badly, but I still like you a lot, I would say, hey, look, intervention.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
And that's pretty much when we do an outreach and tell someone, so, hey, look, you're a human, you have responsibility. Go vegan now, because you don't want to be an animal abuser. I wouldn't have this conversation if I truly believe that the person is cruel. So I do believe it is bringing them respect to show them their action and to ask them to align their actions with their not animal abusing morals.
Yeah. And for people who don't know how you do your activism, so usually it starts like you target a certain square. You choose a content.
It's fast, yeah.
I mean, in the sense, a target in the sense you need to decide, do I stand in front of a supermarket? Do I go to, what kind of place do I go? Who I address? How do you choose where you go, and then what kind of conversations you want to have?
I would say there's three main types of content, video, and conversation that I do. And I always think about how can I put this in the media afterwards, because obviously reaching people online is the most effective way to spread the vegan message. I think my most common content is in the way of Anonymous for the Voiceless, a big animal rights organization in the world. And we do street activism with video footage of the animal exploitation industries, mainly slaughterhouse footage, which grasps the attention of the passer-bys, and they look at the screens and they're like, what's happening here? And as soon as they have this emotional reaction and they stop to look at those terrible screams and hear the screams and sounds, we talk to them and say, hey, if you think this is bad, you should go vegan. So we use that as a hook. Another form of content that I do, or activism that I do, is I actually go to pride demonstrations. I go to feminism walks. I go to anti-war demonstrations. And many people believe that I do it to be against the movement there, like propaganda against pride or against the peace movement. But I say I'm going there because in marketing terms, people who are standing for equal rights and liberation, body positivity, and against war and for peace, they should understand that empathy belongs not only in the human realm, but also to the other animals. So in the marketing terms, we would call that the lower hanging fruits. It's easier to go and make them vegan, I believe. So I try to bring it in there too.
Yeah, I saw these videos, and I mean, as a queer person, for me, it seems very close to me, this idea that we should kind of align the movements if we are standing for equality of genders, equality of different sexual orientations, etc. It's true, like these concepts. That's how I came to animal rights. It was because I was speaking about consent, about the sexual agency, especially for sex worker rights as well,
Wow.
and then. Why do we exclude other animals?
Exactly.
It's and suddenly like it's very clear. The question maybe is about the strategy. Like when you go there, or also how I do things, what is the ultimate goal? How you like? Is it about the individual change in the conversation? Is it about the videos that you can create buzz, so you bring the topic into the media? Is it about maybe you have this position, I think, in the ecosystem of activists where you're very radical, so other people can do, let's say, the political work, which you probably can't do because you use certain terms. So
I would say that every work that you do for activism is political. I don't think that there's a lot of actions that you can do in everyday life that is not political.
I didn't mean not political. I meant more like the political campaign.
I see what you mean.
Working on policy or these kind of things. Yeah.
I would say it's a mix of all the points that you mentioned. So first of all, of course, the best way when I speak to someone is if they go vegan. That's amazing. However, I would say that the normal conversations when actually good-minded people just go vegan, shake hands and say, you're so right, I'm so sorry for what I did. That happens a lot. And I don't put all these videos up because they tend to be very unshareable, unglossy content. It's a bit boring sometimes, even if they just nod their head and say, yeah, that's all
right.
true. So I do like the confrontation and the buzz in the video that I make, but I always have the hope, of course, that the person goes vegan. But often, especially when I do big collaborations with influencers, I know beforehand that they would not publicly want to lose face against the vegan. So then my strategy is more to show their community their fallacies when they argue for animal enslavement, and really show the world partially what cruel words and what actions that implicates this human supremacist stand.
So yeah, we are in a context where we have an entire system. It's completely normalized in our society of extreme violence. It's systemic, it's everywhere, it's made invisible. And yeah, you bring in a kind of clarity that I think many people also have problems with. And so how do you deal with the attacks you get, with the anger, with the hate? Because it's a lot, no?
I think if you're an activist and you don't get hate, then you're not a successful activist. We have to make people feel uncomfortable, and we are their walking, talking guilty conscience, like mentioned. So if you just pat someone on the back because they like act as if they were an ally to vegans, you will never get them to change. We all just turned vegan because we felt we were hypocrites. So we have to make people feel uncomfortable. If they attack me, then I know that they have no other argument. So I see it as part of a necessary part of cultural change, that first of all, they will ignore you and laugh at you. Then they will be extremely mad at you, or even have physical attacks, which is happening regularly to vegan street activists. And finally, society will shift because they see we don't have any other arguments than our fists, so we have to change.
What about alliances? Because I think when you go, let's say, to Pride, and you think like it's a low-hanging fruit, but in a way it's also people who sometimes they might be really struggling with other issues in their lives. Or how can we kind of bring people along? Because that's something also people would sometimes reproach to you, that you're so direct and so with such a strong stance for what you stand for that people might be off-put and then develop in a different direction. I don't have any data. I don't have any opinion. It's more a question of strategy, because in the end, I guess we really want the same thing.
Yeah,
we want a world where this horrendous animal exploitation changes. And then we need to find, where do we have leverage? Like, where do we... And for example, one strategy, I talked with somebody who is, he has been like developing a vegan, like chicken nugget, plant-based chicken nugget brand. He was a lot into these alternative proteins. He says like he changed completely strategy. What he's trying to do now is convince big business to do half and half burgers. So the burgers would be half meat, half plant-based. So if the big companies would do that, the number of animals killed is halved.
Yes, so I believe there are many strategies that can fulfill a goal, but we don't have, like you just said, data on what eventually will lead to the vegan world. The vegan world in itself has to also have the human supremacist gone. And I believe if we only bring people there with yummy chicken nuggets or with arguments for the environment, then they will never understand that an animal is not there for us to exploit and enslave. And I believe that it's very easy to fall back on ancient traditions then if people don't understand the necessity and the urgency of just being vegan. I don't think that my activism in numbers would put more people off, but you're totally right. In German, we have the word Reaktanz. I don't know how it translates to English, but sometimes when people are met with radical veganism for the first time, they go like, she's crazy, they're crazy, I'm gonna eat a burger now. That might be the first initial reaction, but I believe it's something that comes from this cognitive dissonance to shield themselves from their own responsibility, from the hurt of having to see I made a mistake. And the sleeper effect, I do strongly believe in that. If your first emotional is so vivid, then it will work in your brain, and eventually then someone like you comes along who might have the same message but bring it in a different packaging, and then they will say, it's so much easier to talk to you than with Raffaella, that militant vegan. I really like listening to you. Yeah, you're actually so right.
That's actually what I think. To be honest, like I really think like for people like me, I'm a bit more on this like, hey, queers, get your shit together and follow along. But I would not talk necessarily to them the way you do. But I also realized that, like, in this ecosystem of different shapes of activism, like, yeah, you're holding a certain stance, and I think it must come with a lot of discomfort as well in your relationships, in your feeling of safety. People recognize you on the street. Like you appear very strong. You're very smart, very eloquent. Yeah, no, it's true. But then is there a place where you also like have doubts, where you like feel like, fuck, I cannot do this like this? So
well, yeah, if you don't doubt yourself, then you think that then you're dogmatic. So every day or often, I believe, because you're told so many times that you're crazy and insane or a psychopath, even by my own mother, who thinks that I'm an extremist, I do think about the way I phrase things. I do think about even the stance of veganism, and I try to reflect on it, but I don't find a logical fallacy in it. And I also, with the same thing with my strategy, I do think that I have to be this, in German we say extreme Flanke, this extreme edge, in order to shift the conversation of veganism in social media and pop culture and make it easier for other vegans to spread the same message and be more socially acceptable. So I think the vegan nowadays, also through extreme work like mine or other extreme activists, the vegan nowadays is more comfortable in society and more socially accepted and heard than the vegetarian was 50 years ago. And I think that is a definite sign of social change.
You choose language that you get also a lot of shit for. Let's call it what it is. Like you compare the exploitation systems to other forms of injustices that we have seen in history, Holocaust, slavery, etc. Could you explore a little bit more why you do so, and why do you think also like it's necessary to use these terms?
So speciesism, like I mentioned, is the first form of discrimination that we learn. And I believe that in order to break our actions, we have to change the way we phrase things, we word things, because words create our reality. Now, if we use different language for our treatment of animals than we use for humans, that implies that we also have different rights and a way of treating them in the physical reality, not just in the verbal sense. For example, when we kill an animal, we use the term slaughter or even harvest. However, we wouldn't do that. You're shocked. I know it's shocking, but it's the truth. Yeah, and we see them as walking products. But if we use murder, even then some people are like, you can't call that murder. And that's where it starts. If we play the word game and we say, okay, I'm not going to use the word Holocaust because they're just animals, you try to stay in the language and the euphemistic, watered down terms of the suppressor instead of talking adequately for the victim. I think everybody would agree that if those were humans now in these industries, in these concentration camps, deported into slaughterhouses, we would be using these terms. And when we as activists say we should break the supremacy of humans and adequately also the speciesism, then we must start with the language.
I agree, yet at the same time, some of these terms like Holocaust, for example, it has shifted in its meaning. I come from a Jewish family, for example. Some family members have been murdered during the Holocaust. I personally don't necessarily have so much a problem because I think the term is inadequate because it means kind of a peace-bringing total sacrifice. And there's nothing of a peace-bringing sacrifice, not with the murder of the Jews, not with the murder of the animals. But the question is like that there is a specific sensitivity, probably also with the term slavery. And I would like to have these people on board. Mm-hmm. I would love all the Jews to speak out against what we do to animals, as much also what is happening in Gaza. There is something, but like if we use a language that is so charged, mm-hmm. I wonder then if we kind of lose the alliance.
Well, like I said, I don't believe so. I think if we want to really adhere to never again and actually be sympathetic towards the terrible suffering that Jewish families and my family went through and other slave or discrimination victims, then we have to realize the parallels and stop it from happening again. Or when we see that discrimination is occurring in similar ways to other victims. As a doctor, I must say I have to compare the diseases of two patients who are going through the same disease process. That doesn't take away the individual suffering. It just makes me treat them with the same pill.
I think, yeah, comparison totally, like there's nothing wrong with comparing. It's more about like...
strategic question.
Do you want to take people by the hand?
I do believe...
Yeah.
I do.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, and you say, this word might even shock people so much. But I think somebody who is seeing animals as so low that they wouldn't use these very adequate terms, rape, slavery, Holocaust, they are maybe even unreachable to making them sympathetic. And sorry, I just have to say this is... if you talk about someone, why you use the word, it's not just a semantic discussion that is something else than persuading them of veganism. It's explaining to them why you want to use these words and why you believe it's adequate inside of the victims is actually the topic in itself, because then you explain to them that we don't want to lower down the suffering of Jews, of blacks, of gays, of women.
We need this contextualization, I guess, because that's also maybe part of the problem, that things are so nuanced. I mean, I've seen your work. I know where you stand. You know, like there's people saying Raphael is like this and like this. But I hear your arguments as somebody who looks at animal and is not participating in this dehumanization. I mean, we want to humanize the animals.
Yeah.
So, but if people this is unconceivable for them, they hear something else.
But then I believe the whole concept of animal rights will be also unconceivable to them.
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure, because I feel like there is so much hurt in some like the racist history that we have. Like for me, I think that we are different as well, but it's also differences that we can deal with. Like I feel uncomfortable in a way. I don't want to go to, let's say, a black person and tell them how they need to live their lives, because there is a history about...
You don't want them to tell them to be vegan?
I can tell them the arguments, but they need to make their choice.
Like the white person does too. So I don't dissect moral obligations by skin color. I think it is definitely unabhängig.
Independent.
Sorry, thanks. Independent of cultural heritage. Tradition is not a justification for violence. Treating a black person who might have some kind of history with slavery in their family differently in the question of their moral obligation to not exploit animals is in itself speciesism. Racism.
It's making them small. So absolutely no.
Yeah,
I think the argumentation would be the same, but it's more like there is a layer for me, and maybe that's also discomfort that I avoid, you know. But there's something where I'm like, we do have dynamics, we do have histories, it's closing people off. So I try to first kind of build kind of an allyship, that we have a trusting relationship, and then I will have the conversation. And usually my experience is then they're listening, because otherwise they will not even start listening, because they seem, no, you white person don't come. Like, and I get it, because there's a history with that.
I do think that is a bit unfair to make it seem as if I don't build rapport with the people that I speak. And I don't think that you meant that, but I don't go up to someone and tell them, why are you fucking rapists, and without context. Like I do believe that non-vegans are paying for the rape and enslavement of animals, but like you said, if I don't put it into context, they will just go like, what?
Yeah. Maybe it's also the images I see on video. Of course, they're like a shortcut.
Yeah, but even in the conversations where I use these terms, I usually like build the rapport and tell them, are you against this animal exploitation? How would you call this? How do you think the animal feels? Like, what would you call this if it were humans? Where's the difference that we treat the blah, 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 blah? And then I build up and say, okay, some people even from themselves say, yeah, shit, this looks like, especially those chicken sheds, it looks like concentration camps. I thought this was a Jewish thing here. They say that to us. So, like I said, if people are open for this, they will not then suddenly react badly. And even if you don't use these words, as soon as you want more from people than just thinking about their actions, as soon as you demand veganism from them in the kindest words. I have just posted a video where I told a woman in the kindest words, and suddenly she takes a break, looks at me and goes, "You're so aggressive." And I'm like, literally, what the fuck? So people are either ready to take the responsibility because of all the contact that they already had with veganism, or they're raising as a very reflected person, or they will tell you that you're an extremist. That I don't see why.
And it's really about, like, it's a mirror. We do have these cognitive dissonances, and you're holding up a mirror. You get a lot of shit. Now you're gonna get some nice. No, something really nice, because you speak about, you said the traditions are not a justification for violence.
Definitely not.
And I agree 100%. So this is a vegan fondue from New Roots. And they say, we build the traditions of the future. They make fondue, it's a Swiss company, like the same way that other cheese companies would make cheese, but instead of cow milk, they use cashew milk.
Can I?
Yes, you can actually open it and squeeze it into the thing.
Cashews were melted,
the cashews were
milked.
Squeezed, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Squeezing nuts is a really nice thing people can do. And if
consensually.
I mean, I don't know if they ask every single nut, like, do you want to?
Then I don't want to eat it.
No, but that's also this funny question. No, because it's actually really delicious. When did you have vegan fondue?
I did. We had that at Sylvester, New Year's. It's the tradition in Austria.
Exactly. We can renew the traditions. That's the beautiful thing. Please squeeze it in for us.
I have to smell it first. It smells nice. It smells very nutty, but also cheesy. It probably has this, what's it called? Hefeflocken.
Yes.
What's it in English?
Yeast, nutritional yeast. It's a good secret for every vegan, like, or wannabe vegan, or almost vegan, or vegan tomorrow, or a vegan after listening to this talk. I thought you would squeeze it with more sensuality.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. Yeah, I have OnlyFans, by the way. Follow me there.
This is an interesting thing, by the way. Yeah, you do have OnlyFans.
Yeah.
And I read that you donate actually a lot of money for animal causes.
Yeah.
And you don't talk about it enough.
Yeah, I should talk about it more.
I love that you use, I mean, the body that you say you're proud of. No, but it's amazing that you, because there's this thing, veganism is about bodies. It's about agency and sexual agency, you know. Well done. And the fact that we can use our bodies to then actually have other people and other bodies benefit. You like it?
Yum, it's good.
It's good. So let's warm it up. I will explain a few rules.
Okay.
Because, you know, fondue is a very social thing. If you lose the bread...
bread? I can lose something here and I'm scared.
Yeah. You take some of the bread, you can put it on a plate. If it falls in while you eat, I have a special thing for you.
Okay.
As
long as we're not playing strip poker.
Well, sometimes people have to undress, but this is really for your OnlyFans. Okay. But in this case, in our case, when we lose the bread, we're actually going to drink some milk, not cashews.
Okay.
It's real milk from a mother.
From a mother? From a mammal mother?
Yes.
From breasts?
Yes.
Your breasts?
I tried. No, it's not from... Actually, I can show you the mother.
Now he has like a mini cow under there.
And I show you the milk. So this is the milk. It's from a friend of mine. Her name is Tiziana.
Tiziana?
Well, yes, if you want, but that's her.
Oh, she has lovely milk.
Nice, no?
Yeah, and she has a baby. Wow.
She has it. I mean, for everybody who doesn't see my phone, it's a human mother, because humans also have milk when they have a baby, like cows.
Also mammals.
We're mammals. And I mean, I made this open call, like, I need mother milk, and Tiziana was like, I have 2.5 liters in my freezer.
Amazing, Tiziana.
Have you had mother's milk?
Well, I've had, sadly, mother's milk from cows that I stole when I was not vegan, and I sexually abused cows as a non-vegan to steal their titty milk. But the last time I drank from a human mother, I don't remember, because I was this big.
Okay, so if you lose the bread, we're gonna have a shot.
Okay.
And let's make the fondue go hot.
Vegan magic. Wait, we can make it hot. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. It works. Let's go. Are you ready to try?
So I will now
You stab the bread.
Okay.
And then you turn. You can make number 8. Then you eat it. And I hope you enjoy.
Thank you. I'm fascinated. Being taught by a real Swiss person how to do this.
The French would say, we invented it. I still love it.
Is it too warm?
No, it's good. Perfect.
Without mother's milk.
Without mother's milk, and it's they're really amazing. They donate also like 1% of the money to animal sanctuaries. And I want to do a little game, so I ask you questions. The first one is, when do you have your last meltdown?
Wow. I could name a few.
The last one.
I think at every activist event, I have a situation where I have to go up to my boyfriend and just go like, having a rant. How could you be so stupid? How could you say that we can eat animals because they don't pay taxes? Why are people such ignorant fuckers?
Somebody said they don't pay taxes.
Oh, you would be...
Lots of people don't pay taxes and we don't eat them, huh?
Exactly. You would really be amazed what people come up with when faced with their moral inequality towards
So
animals.
you have your meltdowns with stupidity.
Yeah, with ignorance, with chosen ignorance, because I know that they wouldn't be so stupid in regards to any other topic, but towards the animals.
Did you once think you went too far?
I honestly think I always rather went too little. How we treat the non-vegans and how we defend the animals with just using our words, with dressing up as cows, with just screaming. How is that enough when it comes to a war? When we use words like rape, slavery, we should be doing so much more to defend the animals. And I believe when we're both 90, we will look back and say, even though we were called the extremists of our time, it was shameful that we still did so little. In comparison to other like discrimination and apartheid and women's rights, people threw in windows, they put stuff in fire and screamed for their rights. But we don't have the courage, maybe. I don't know.
We don't have the courage, and I think it's also lacking the resonance chamber in a way. Because we need, like, I think, unfortunately, in a way, we are still also preparing the shift of mindset.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Then have this burger peak.
Do you want to see a little war?
Well, we already have war on animals, so it would only be a defensive mechanism towards them. But I do understand.
But I think we need to find a different way. I mean, for me, it's really like, I hope, I mean, that's my approach. I really hope that we can have like this little tilting point where enough people are just like recognizing, okay, we need to start considering these other animals. And then somehow, I mean, use shaming as a tactic also.
Yeah, definitely.
And does it work?
I believe the only thing that gets people we are social creatures, to change is because they don't want to lose contact to their flock, to their herd. And being the odd one out is uncomfortable. So as a vegan, you are an odd one out, but people with social integrity and strength towards themselves and their moral values, they will do it despite of being the odd one out, and then make it easier for everyone else who is very opportunistic to then follow their footsteps because they wouldn't be the only one out. So my activism is targeted towards the people who have this integrity, who aren't spineless, and therefore in every social group there will be sometimes you hear people say, yeah, my cousin is already vegan.
But I mean, I hear you, but then, like, for example, you have these words like spineless. Aren't we all spineless in some way?
Well,
like, does it work to divide like the world into spineful and the spineless? Or because I mean, I think we have our blind spots, and I have definitely still mine on some regards. And we work on it, we learn, we grow.
Well, if it comes to animal abuse, for me, it's quite a black or white matter. Either
not just because of the cow print, huh?
No. Either you say you are against animal exploitation and you do your very best to be vegan in this non-vegan world, or you say you are against animal exploitation and then you make up some stupid thing like the vegans are extremists or I don't care anyways and it will always be that way. So for me, using those fallacies or even then mocking vegans is a very spineless, opportunistic behavior to not having to go through the little discomfort of change.
You have to eat more fondue, otherwise you will never drink the mother's milk.
I could also drink it like that, because if I drop it in there, I will never find it again in the magic.
You want to drink it?
I actually am very curious to drinking human mother milk, yes.
Drop the bread.
I will drop the bread now.
Drama. The bread!
How could that happen?
Oh my gosh, okay, wait.
Oh, no. Wow, double shot, double shot.
You want a big one or a small one?
I'll start with a small one.
And suddenly you're a careful person.
Yes.
Like, no, I'm
I just
shy.
remembered the breast. I used to drink.
Oh, that was a big one. I give you the other one. Like this.
Okay.
You can take my glass.
So she's healthy, though. That's an important question, because it's not pasteurized.
It was in the freezer. I don't know. I drank it already last week. What do you mean with healthy?
Because
it's a binary. It's a binary concept. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I have to ask this question now. If you leave it in or not, I don't know. But human secretions can make you sick. So I'm asking if it's healthy.
Like pasteurized.
Yeah, exactly. It's not pasteurized milk.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just like a little cow asking, hey, who has some human milk? I didn't do any doctor stuff on it. Do you want me to drink the double shot?
I'll just drink the small one.
You don't have to.
If you feel... I forgot to... I thought that it was checked for health, and I'm not sure if I'm on board with...
I'm a naive little cow. I'm just like... No, I'm sorry.
I would actually... I don't know if I stand for this.
Don't drink it.
I think it's a very cool concept to have this here, and I think it's interesting.
But then please don't...
I am concerned for the health aspect, as I would also be concerned of the health aspect of drinking milk from any other species. However, I do know that the stolen rape cow milk from cow titties is pasteurized, and I'm not sure how healthy it is.
So I would not want you to drink it, because I actually think it's never good to put anything in anybody's mouth without them wanting it, no matter if it's body part from somebody who didn't want to die, or if it's body part from somebody who wants to experience them. Okay, that goes too far. I will drink it, okay?
Okay.
Can you cheers?
I will cheers you. To veganism.
To veganism.
Free the nipple and free the teat.
Thank you, Tiziana. Next one.
Yeah.
I actually... I don't know, it's a bit weird to say I like it.
It's okay.
It's sweet. It's honestly... Like it's not that different from other like plant-based milks that I do drink.
I want to tell people once again that drinking milk from a mother who consensually gives it from her breast, that is okay, and that is vegan.
If it's pasteurized and treated and...
I'm talking from the ethical point, but stealing milk from the breasts of a mother who was raped, whose child was stolen and murdered for Wiener Kalbsschnitzel, and who was then also killed as soon as she doesn't have milk in her tit, that is not vegan, that is not ethical, that is rape and murder.
I need to go a bit more, one last kind of part of the conversation. Melting down for me is also about really changing shape of things. There is concepts that are solid. We have patriarchy, we have racism, we have speciesism, all these things we want to dissolve. But for me, these binaries, sometimes also I think they're a bit dangerous. So like, for example, like many vegans, they would always say like veganism is ethical, but it's not enough. Like you can be very unethical as a vegan. Cashews, as an example, if they're not ethically sourced, there can be horrendous working conditions for the people who do work there. How do you deal with these nuances? Are you interested in them, or you think they're just watering down the things?
First of all, I would say that being vegan doesn't automatically make you ethical. It is the baseline. It is just not contributing in regards to animal exploitation to the animal exploitation. It doesn't mean that certain aspects of your life, also concerning animals, can't harm animals. For example, even going for a walk, you could step on an animal, or going for a car drive.
Exactly.
Being vegan doesn't make you not responsible for any kind of suffering in the world. And by all means, how we treat animals shouldn't be the only regard that we have in our life. You are absolutely, completely right about that. Even when I say that somebody is spineless, I don't get to say that a child who has never been confronted with the topic of veganism, who's been indoctrinated by this society just as I was, just as you were, I wouldn't say that they're a murderer, a Nazi to animals. That never came out of my mouth that way. But as soon as someone who I believe is now educated in the topic, who I've had a lengthy conversation with, then still mocks vegan activism, I want to call them by the meanest shit.
I kind of find peace... Maybe it's a wrong peace, but I find peace in the idea that people's limitedness is not their choice.
Oh.
You know, like if
You're
people...
too dumb to understand.
But there is something about like the world occurs to us as kind of the sum of everything we have experienced, that we have learned, our parents, our culture. So the conversations, which you are a part of, I'm a part of, people listening, all these things make a picture of the world. And if the resistance in people is too big to kind of translate it into action, for example, I prefer to live in a world where I think they cannot do differently. Maybe I have to find better strategies. For me, I prefer to live in that world because it gives me, I cannot be at war with the world the whole time. And there is also suffering that humans are not involved in.
There's some things that you can't change and some people that you will never be able to change. I like that.
And for me, I need to experience joy and freedom in my life because I want this for the animals. I want animals to be happy and free. If I see animals in a sanctuary running around or just lying in the sun, a pig, and I'm like, and in a way, I feel like we need to grant this also to ourselves, because our liberation is part of animal liberation. You know what I mean? And there is something for me where if I see these limitations, but I'm like, I try to stay in a mindset where things are positive, because otherwise I kind of crush. And I don't know how you do with the fights that you're leading, because it's tough.
I do grant myself fun, and I think that this experience here with you is extremely exhilarating for me. I think my craft is, and my passion, the outcome that I have, that's for me very fulfilling. So in a way, I do believe that my work is something egoistical too, because many people don't ever find a reason to be alive, something to fight for. And I feel like there's a fire in me that's burning bright. And it's even though it's a very terrible thing that we're fighting against, I do see my life as being very fulfilled in being allowed, and with all the with arms and legs and speech skills that I have to fight against this. It's a beautiful, precious gift, and I want to use it for the animals, see my privileges and use them for justice, and not just flocking through the world. That's too empty for me.
There's a really beautiful saying from Cornel West: justice is love, the way it shows up when it's made public.
Love. I don't like the term love.
Why?
Many vegans say, I'm vegan because I love animals. And I'm like, I don't have to love every animal to give them and grant them the respect not to be exploited and enslaved. I don't have to love every gay person. I have to love every black person, every man, every woman, even to respect basic human rights, not to be exploited and enslaved.
But isn't love, in a way, the desire that we have for whoever it is to thrive, to live their best life? It doesn't mean you have to like them, but you can still stand for them.
But someone who I think is an idiot, I don't think that they should live their best life. I don't know, maybe that's a mean part of me. Maybe living their best life would then also fulfill moral standards that I would see in them, because they wouldn't otherwise have the choice. I like what you said before, realizing that some people, be it from their background, from the things that they never learned to reflect themselves, they don't have the cognitive choice even to understand the arguments that we're making. And
people are in situations. I really think, especially like say in the queer community, some people they're the suicide rate is enormous. There is other things that are sometimes so omnipresent. Is it justified or not? Whatever. The thing is, not everybody always has what it takes to kind of look at things fully. And I think that's why I try to punch up. So I want to go to those people who I feel like, you have to address this now. And if people are in distress, in economic distress, if people have no choice also, let's say people in certain areas of the world, if there's no alternative, there is also no ethical alternative. And I think that's why for me, I really try to address the activism to the fucking supermarket chains. You know, it's like you are doing greenwashing and at the same time you build a new slaughterhouse. That's where I ideally want to target. So this slaughterhouse won't be built.
That's a strategy that's absolutely legit. However, when I just talk to individuals, I think we shouldn't be so easy to give them a free pass. Your suffering and the problems that you go through, we should stop them from having always a victim mentality. And I do understand that some situations in life can be so tough and draining that you can't think about anything else than yourself. But your suffering isn't a free pass to cause suffering amongst others.
But I agree. But that's why we need kind of a systemic change where also people have less distress. If you have if you're not desperate, you don't know how to pay your bills, and you have 5 children, and I don't know, whatever situation that might be, or you have caring responsibilities for people with mental illnesses, and if we build a society of solidarity, I think then people actually might much easily switch. That's my hope.
On the contrary, I would say that there are some people who are in great financial situations, who are very free, who don't have family responsibilities, who are then still ignorant towards animal slavery. So it can't only be that.
Not only, but I think that's why for me, like, animal liberation has to come with also kind of a more social world where people have more equality.
Well, it has never been more social, especially in Central Europe, more rich, more obvious the choice to make, and more open the information to make a pleasant, vegan, comfortable life possible than it hasn't been nowadays. So at some point, we shouldn't just...
But that's also why the numbers might be slowly shifting.
Maybe, I think, like I said, it's all in all, we have to get that scale to tip, but I think a big part of it will be also education and making the shame of the past, hopefully one day, of animal exploitation and slavery be the reason why people actually stick to that, no matter how dire the times.
Mm-hmm. We have to wrap it up. I think we could talk for many, many hours. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh, wow. That's a difficult question. I do hope that I will be making the best content and contribution that I can still to the animal liberation that I can bring on. I do hope that I will have made an even bigger impact, especially on the young generation, of what it means to be an animal in those slave industries. And I just want to still be a part of that and have the honor to bring in my privileges to educate people on something that I wish I would have learned so much earlier.
Amazing. I really hope it will come like that. And thanks for what you do for the animals.
Thank you too.
It's beautiful to have you here. Let's have some more fondue. And everybody at home, thanks for listening, for watching. This is The Meltdown. If you like the conversation, send it to everybody who you think needs to hear this. And see you soon.
Be vegan, not ignorant.
Oh, can we moo together?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
You know how to moo?
Like a deep, dark, or a cute mew? I'm the tiny calf, right?
Deep and dark.
I'm the calf, I'm the cute calf.
You're a cute calf, but you're also deep and dark.
Okay.
we can do both. Okay, let's move. Okay. And now the cute one?
Okay. Meow.